Today, we're tackling one of the biggest questions out there, right? What happens to our jobs in a world that's getting more and more filled with artificial intelligence?
This is the question you see everywhere, and it's the one that causes a whole lot of anxiety. Will some AI agent eventually do what I do, but, better, faster, and cheaper? And look, that is a totally valid concern. But what if that's the wrong question entirely? What if by focusing only on what AI can do, we're actually missing half of the picture?
There's this fascinating new research paper that suggests we need to completely shift our focus. It argues that this whole conversation isn't just about AI's capability, it's about human desire. What do we, the people actually doing the jobs, want AI to do for us? Now let's be clear, the researchers aren't just dismissing the big concerns. They totally acknowledge that the rise of AI agents brings up these legitimate fears about jobs being displaced, about losing our own sense of control, and of course, about becoming way too dependent on automation. These are absolutely real issues.
But their main argument, the central idea, is that this entire conversation is missing this critical factor of human desire. If we want to build a future that actually works for us, we have to first understand what parts of our jobs we want help with, and, just as importantly, which parts we want to keep for ourselves.
So, you might be wondering, how on earth do you measure something as subjective as desire? Well, that's the clever part. The researchers developed this novel auditing framework to do just that, to create a system for understanding AI's potential impact, but from a totally human-centered perspective.
And at the heart of this whole thing is something they call the Human Agency Scale, or HAS. The best way to think of it is like a shared language, a tool we can all use to measure and talk about exactly how much control a worker wants to keep over any given task.
And this is where it gets really interesting, because the scale isn't just human or AI, it's a whole spectrum. Do you just want AI to pop up with some suggestions? Or do you want it to be more of a collaborator, working alongside you? Maybe you're cool with it doing the task as long as you get to review its work. Or, in some cases, do you want it to just act completely on its own? It's this level of nuance that's so important. And listen, this isn't just some theory they dreamed up. They actually went out and surveyed 1,500 workers across more than 100 different jobs. They asked them about their preferences on hundreds of different tasks. And the result is this huge data set called WORKBank, which is the foundation for their entire analysis. Okay, so this is where it all comes together. By combining all that data on what humans desire with assessments of what AI can currently do, the researchers created a map, a kind of guide for AI development that's broken down into 4 distinct zones. And here it is. This chart just illustrates their whole concept so brilliantly. On one axis, you've got AI capability, so what the tech can actually do. And on the other, you have worker desire, what people want it to do. This simple grid gives us an incredibly clear way to think about how we should integrate AI.
Let's really focus on the 2 most important zones here. Up in the top right, you've got the green light zone. This is the sweet spot, right? These are tasks that AI is good at and that workers would love to get off their plate, like tedious data entry. That's a clear go-ahead for automation. But then, look at the bottom right, the red light zone. Here, AI is capable, but workers have a really low desire for automation. Think about tasks that need critical judgment, or creativity, or empathy. Just because we can automate these doesn't mean we should. This is where we need to be extremely cautious.
The other 2 zones are just as insightful. That R&D opportunity zone is basically where the future is being built. These are the tasks workers are desperate for help with, but AI just isn't quite capable of handling yet. It's like a giant signpost for innovators saying, hey, work on this. And the low priority zone? Well, that's pretty simple. Nobody wants it automated, and the tech can't do it anyway. We can safely ignore that for now.
So what does this all mean for us? For the skills we need to be thinking about and building for the future? Well, the study gives a really clear and fascinating signal about how our core competencies are probably going to have to evolve.
This slide really just says it all. As AI agents get better and better at handling those information-focused skills, the analysis, the data processing, the knowledge recall, the value of our uniquely human interpersonal skills just skyrockets. Things like communication, collaboration, empathy, mentorship, these are becoming our new superpowers in the workplace.
The authors of the study really sum it up perfectly. They say it's a 2-part challenge. We need to build AI that actually aligns with what people want, and at the same time, we need to prepare ourselves for a workplace where our roles and our skills are constantly evolving.
So here's the real takeaway. We need to move beyond being afraid of if AI will automate jobs. The real conversation, the one that gives us power, is about how we choose to integrate it, making conscious, human-centered decisions with these incredibly powerful new tools.
And that brings us to the final question. And this one is really for you to think about. Look at your own job, the tasks you do every single day. What falls into your red light zone? What are those core parts of your job that require your judgment, your creativity, your humanity? The parts that you would never, ever want to just hand over to a machine. Because knowing that, that's the first step to navigating the future of work on your own terms.